Welcome to the video demonstration for the IPC Information Support System for Chronic. This is a video demo for the Chronic ISS for the data preparation and raising awareness activity. To log into the ISS, open up your browser. Firefox or Chrome work best, and type in the URL for the ISS portal of your country. For your country's portal, note that these must be created by the GSU in advance. Your country portal will have an abbreviation here, replacing the ZZ, which is the training portal. For example, for Honduras, it will be HN. For each country portal that's created, there are two sites that are created: a test site, ISS TST, and a production site, iss.ipcinfo.org. The difference is that the production site is meant to be used for your real data, whereas the test site can be used for training and testing purposes. For this video demo, we are going to use the training portal, which is isstst.ipcinfo.org/zz. The login will be written automatically for you. It's sufficient just to type in ZZ. This brings us to the training portal. So I'm going to be logging in as the administrator. And as such, I actually have lots of additional functionality here at the top, which we're not going to all use. When you log into the ISS as the administrator, or as any user who's given the right permission, you have two options: to create a new analysis or to open an existing analysis. We're going to look at an existing analysis for this demonstration. The list here comprises of acute and chronic analyses that we might have on a specific portal, in this case the training portal. So we're going to go down here and we're going to look at a specific analysis called the IPC Chronic Manual Analysis, which you can see is also here written at the top. Now, as you know, your country portal can be used for both acute and chronic analyses, and that means it's multiple analyses. Right now we are using this for the chronic analysis. Example: as soon as I open up an existing analysis, in the left navigation I am presented with an overview. The overview showed me some of the details of the analysis. It's a chronic type analysis, the title, and the date. There are also some completion and sharing options below that, which are grayed out now because they're actually not accessible via the overview section. You have to go into the administration analysis parameters section to have access to these. We're going to skip over that and jump right into the chronic analysis. One of the first things that you would want to do in data preparation is the evidence repository. For the chronic, we've brought the analysis evidence repository to a higher level, that is, at the analysis level. As you can see here, when we access the evidence repository at the analysis level, as opposed to the area level, we can see the sources of evidence. Now, this is a pre-existing analysis, so there's already some sources that have been entered here for you. And the first one is an HEA livelihoods baseline, FuseNet. This is a source, and below the source we have the raw evidence, as you can see here. Here's a second source with no raw evidence, and a third and a fourth source. Each source must have raw evidence below it. So in this example, the evidence below the HEA baseline, livelihoods baseline source is the raw evidence called evidence title here. So this is the evidence, the raw evidence. Would go here, and this would be either a text or an image. This might be an image of a specific Let's look here what we have for images. Quickly we'll go through and we'll find some examples. Maybe we'll look for an image. Here's one from Honduras that we'll use. Notice it's a nice small image, 34 kilobytes. You'll want to keep your images small here because you load up many. And this is an example of a climate. And here, if you want to enter a technical note, such as when this was collected, how it was collected, mostly technical notes here. Now, what we've done is just edited this one. As you can see here, this is the actual evidence. All right, it's an example of an image that we had here in our repository from Honduras, just as an example. So this will be saved into our analysis evidence repository. So these will be available for each of the analysis areas. If we type in a description, a technical note, that will come up here. We can jump down to one of the 4 functions of the IPC, which is building technical consensus. As you are all aware of the IPC, this is a standard protocol, the TWG matrix. TWG matrix allows you to add participants of the technical working group as well as participants of the workshop or the analysis. These are separated as members of the technical working group or participants. Notice here we can also have multiple technical working groups. You can have one at the national level or subnational. You might even have thematic technical working groups, which you can add here. In this example, we'll just look at the national level technical working group and add a member. Currently, there are no members added. Now, adding a member means that we already have members in our portal. If we do have members in our portal, we click here and we can find the members listed here. Let's pick Mr. Bugs Bunny. Notice Mr. Bugs Bunny will already have a default organization and an organization type. Then we can say that Bugs Bunny is actually a food security and maybe nutrition specialist, areas of expertise. We save as opposed to save and add members, and we will notice that Mr. Bugs Bunny actually comes up in our matrix under International NGO, Food Security, and Nutrition. Participants are added in the same way. Again, a participant is someone who attends the technical working group or the analysis and is not a member of the TWG. Also, if we want to show partner logos, we would add the partner logos down here in this section. And this adds the partner logo actually to our communication template. So if we wanted to add FAO, we would add FAO logo as such and save. You can add other organizations by clicking the Add button. The technical working group matrix, as vital as it is quickly filled out once we have the portal set up. Notice also I can add a chairperson and the hosting organization here. Again, these will pick from existing members of the TWG and existing organizations. You can also have multiple chair people and multiple hosting organizations. Some of the data are saved automatically once you come back to the page, but it never hurts to click Save just to make sure that your data are all safe and secure. The next function of the IPC is classifying severity and causes. Now for the chronic, there is the addition of the National Shocks matrix. Let's have a look at that matrix. There are 2 main sections of the matrix: occurrence and impact of national level shocks and structural changes. you notice that section B here is a synthesis of the impacts of section A. It's filled out like this. First of all, the years go back 10 years from the year of the analysis. So 2014 is our year of analysis, and it goes back 10 years. Click New Entry to add a new shock type. Select from an existing list of shock types or click Other. Here we'll add a flood. And we'll say the floods of 2007. Notice here we can add a documentation code and reliability score and the evidence. A description of the occurrence, again, this is just for demonstration purposes. Obviously you would have much more intelligent things to say right here when you do your analysis. The beginning of the shock and the end of the shock and the impact. And the impact dates. Maybe even longer. Continue. Notice that after entering the shock, the first section, A, shows the occurrence on the first line and the impact on the second line. It also lists the documentation code and the evidence that you're using to back up the information you have entered. Notice also section B has a synthesis of these impacts. So quarter 2 to quarter 4 of 2007. The synthesis of impacts will also carry on to the area shocks matrix, which we will see in a little bit. Section C are the structural changes. The entry is much the same as with the shocks. The title of the structural change, document code or any evidence is added here, and the occurrence description. With a structural change, it begins in a quarter in a certain year, and the end is until now. As in the ISS, the section end date is read-only. Notice the structural change. The National Shocks Matrix is normally entered before the analysis area shocks. In our example here, we have pre-created Tambay, fake example, as one of the analysis areas. If you had other analysis areas, they would be all here listed under classifying severity and causes. Each analysis area has from steps 1 to step 7. In our one example, you can see the title, the description of the area, and livelihood is already entered, as well as the population, the source, and the non-exceptional years. Furthermore, the chronic asks if the area was classified in the acute IPC analysis as phase 3 or worse in the past 3 of the past 10 years. In this case, the answer is yes. You can also add a seasonal calendar. The map of the analysis area is automated. Step 1 is already filled out. Step 2 of the analysis worksheets for Tumbai-Fick example is the evidence repository. Note in our pre-existing data that there are already the analysis level evidence repository sources, plus the addition of area-specific sources. You will recall that the HEA livelihood baseline, which is analysis-wide, was created at the analysis evidence repository level. Any evidence, source, and raw evidence that's created at the analysis evidence repository level will trickle down to the area level. Any evidence added at the analysis level will not trickle upwards. So for example, the 2007 census evidence source with the poverty levels raw evidence were entered at the area. So they will still sit here at the area level. Okay, these will not appear in other areas. They will only appear in Tumbai-Fick example, not in other areas that might be created under classifying severity and causes for this specific analysis called the IPC Chronic Manual. Notice that not only are evidence sources apparent at the area level that are entered at the analysis evidence repository level, but also the raw evidence. So for example here, we had entered this raw evidence example here, and then at the area only level, income and low value strategies and percentage of households with survival deficit in 2012 were entered as raw evidence at only the area level, which is this Tumbai example. We can click on the three dots and see the actual image or text or link of the evidence itself. So at the area level, we can either add evidence or add other sources. As this has already been entered, we won't add any more, but it's important to note that this is the evidence repository for this area. However, if evidence sources or raw evidence were entered at the analysis level, they would appear here as well and are usable throughout the analysis. Step 3 is the area shocks matrix. It is divided into various sections. The first section is the synthesis of national level impacts. If you recall, in the national shocks matrix, we entered the flood shock here from 2007, quarter 2 to quarter 4. The second section is the combined matrix and timing differences. This allows you to modify the timing differences of the national shocks at the area level. Let's see what this means. As we noted, the flood, if I mouse over the 1, I can see that the title of this shock, the floods of 2007. If I want to modify this shock, there's one of two things I can do. I can extend the time of the shock, changing the timing difference, or I can remove quarters. So for example, if this shock had different timing at the area than at the national level, then I could actually come in here and say floods started later, and simply by the fact that I decided to modify this cell, this quarter, then it draws an X here. But maybe they lasted longer. And now this extends the timing with a gray cell for Q1 of 2008. So at the area level, I am modifying the impact of the shock at the area by either removing quarters or adding quarters. Notice when I do this, section D, which is the synthesis, also updates the shock's calendar. Q3 of 2007 to Q1 of 2008 are the impacts of this shock. Getting ahead of ourselves a little bit because there is section C. These are additional unusual shocks for this area. They were not entered at the national level. I can add a shock Again, I can put in documentation and evidence and description. And the occurrence. Q2, 2008, Q3. Let's see the result of this. Notice that the additional area unusual shock is now added to the synthesis matrix, Q2, 2008 to Q4, 2008. Let's add a shock at the area level which occurred after 2010. Click Add Shock. Choose the shock type. Occurrence description and timing. And the impact description and timing. Notice that both the C matrix, which is the additional unusual shocks at the area level, is updated, as well as the synthesis D matrix with the additional area level shock. Structural changes are carried over from the national level shocks matrix to the area levels. If you recall, we had identified a coup at the national level, starting in Q2, 2010. Structural changes carry on through till today. To add area structural changes click the button Add Structural Change. Enter the information and continue. We will not do this. The final matrix is the area conclusion. This is a culmination of information from the National Shocks matrix, which are the syntheses, and the area level shocks impacts, which are now concluded in section F. From the structural change, Q2 2010, you can see that the non-exceptional years begin. Anything previous to this quarter is considered before structural change. If the year is split, the quarters are considered before structural change, and quarters after are quarters with exceptional change. Notice that because we added the area shock of the livestock disease in 2012, there's an exceptional period in 2012 of Q1 and Q2. The non-exceptional years then are 2011, 13, and 14.